Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry here today with, that's right, a Black Clover video. It's been a while since I've talked about this series, but with those last few chapters, I'm talking about this series. That is something that I need to comment on, alright? Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on here all at once, but the last chapters are the thing that alright, now is the moment I need to step in because this is heating up in a big way, okay? And I just love it whenever Tabata or any mangaka really dives into the lore of how their battle systems work. So in Black Clover, it's magic and mana and, the runes and everything. Give me more details on that, Tabata. I eat that stuff up whenever an author goes into probably more detail than they should about how their magic system or their power systems work, right? So before we get into that, though, I have to do a bit of an intro segment. Just telling you right now, if you just happen to find this video while perusing YouTube, like you've never watched me before and you just saw this video on Black Clover and the recent fight, and you're like, oh, I'll click on that and watch this guy, see what he has to say about it. This is going to make no sense to you whatsoever. That's fine. It doesn't have to make sense. Just roll with it for like 20 seconds, go grab a drink or something, come back, and it'll be over, okay? Okay. So the alien squirrels in my backyard, right? I gave them radioactive acorns. They were actually a lot easier to find than I thought. But anyway, that's solved. But the problem is they now think that I'm an ambassador of the entire planet and they want me to go up to their mothership and delegate with their royal squirrel elders or something on a peace treaty. And yeah, I don't have any knowledge of interplanetary peace treaties. So I'm going to try my best, but I'm probably going to mess something up and we might end up having to go to intergalactic war with squirrels. So, just not a guarantee, but we'll see where it goes. Okay, so anyway, welcome back, talking about Black Clover now. Alright, so, yeah, Magna versus Dante. Yeah, that's a matchup I never thought was going to happen, and I honestly kind of forgot about Magna for a little while there. I was reading the manga. I actually just bought volume 25 that just got released by Viz, and I think that was the last volume. You see Magna there where, he goes to the Heart Kingdom and they're telling him that's like, well, your magic's far too low. Luck is okay, and these other, like Asta's the arcane stage, so he can train and everything like that. Noel's okay, but Magna, your magic is simply too low. You're like a level 5 or a tier 5 or whatever. You have to be at least a level 3 in order to train with the runes and make all like the magics like Leo showed and everything, like the true flame magic and making the sigils and everything, the magic circles. And so Magna was like really disheartened by that and he just left. All right. And instead of just giving up, because it's Magna, of course Magna doesn't just give up. He was so brilliant with this. He went to Zora. He went to Zora and he's like, hey, you're kind of like me. We're both peasants. We don't have any absurd amount of mana or magic or anything. And yet you're able to pull out all these ash spells and these trap magics and everything that can like repel magic back, double its own force. Like, how are you doing that, right? And that's one of the great things about Zora, okay? He's such an arrogant character. Whenever a really strong, like, noble character comes to fight him, he's like, oh, you're just a peasant. I can take you down. And then they fire an attack and Zora's like, you're an idiot, and just sets up the trap and then bam, launches it back at twice its power and just like eviscerates them. So Magna's like, yeah, teach me how to do that. I mean, you have ash magic, I have flame magic. It's really not all that different, really. And I love Zora from this perspective, too, because Zora, yeah, I mean, like, he has kind of an edgy personality in more ways than one, but he sees this as like a kind of himself. Magna is also a peasant, and he can't really, fight the same way that, like, Noel and Luck are going to be able to fight, learning the runes that particular way. And so Zora kind of sees himself, and he's also like, hey, if you and I work together on this, we might actually discover a new trick altogether. Well, like, you and I working together might see things that one of us didn't individually, and we might develop a super badass spell that could really take the world by storm. So Zora invites Magna into his secret base, because of course he has a secret base, he's Zora. So they go out into the woods, they have this little secret base where it's just filled with like documents and like codexes and books and tomes, and it's just Zora's in there every day on his off hours, which is most hours, just in there researching runes and researching mana and magic and how to get the most out of what power that he has, okay? And that's the great thing about Zora's character, because he really does seem like this edgy, like, I don't care about anything sort of guy, but he's actually very dedicated to the craft. He's very dedicated to improving himself, and he even says this to Magna, I'm searching for my ideal self. I'm searching for, like, me at the highest level I can possibly achieve, okay? Especially since the way that his dad was treated treated when his dad was in the Magic Knights and everything like that. They're looked down upon. And the whole idea with the Clover Kingdom, of course, is if you're born in nobility or royalty, you got crazy high mana, you're going to have a higher status, like right out of the gate. And if you're born as a peasant, you're going to have less mana, so therefore you just get shoved aside. And Zora is the character that's like, okay, screw that. I'm going to flip that all on its head. I don't care if I have less mana than some, noble living up in his high tower or whatever. No, I'm gonna figure out a way to fight that's even better than that with what little mana I have, okay? And that's how he developed all of his trap magic and everything like that. So, he explains this to Magna, and this is the deep dive into the lore, and I fell in love with this, okay? So, whenever we see characters using the runes or the magic sigils and the circles like Leo did during his fight, where he created that giant ring and then, the true flame magic, like Raging Cataclysmic Inferno or whatever the hell that thing was called, he just like nuked an entire island at once. Zora explains that when you have high magic and you make those runes, you can perform magic very quickly, and it's like higher leveled magic. However, those runes and glyphs disappear a lot quicker. So you can make them quicker, but they don't last that long, all right? And so you can make, like, oh, magic ring, true lightning magic like Luck did or whatever. It's really cool, and it has a really important effect, but if you don't have a lot of mana, it's simply not possible for you to do that. Now, the opposite end of that is if you don't have that much mana, yeah, you're not going to be able to create giant effects that fast, but you can still do it. It'll just take a lot longer. And with the way Zora describes it, with like people with their puny mana, like you and me, Magna, when we write runes and magic sigils and glyphs and everything, they don't go away right away. They actually persist for a lot longer because our magic is not as strong. I guess it doesn't burn up as much. Okay, so we can sit here for minutes and draw up, glyphs, or hours, or days, or weeks, or months. We can take as long as we want to plan and set it up. And so that's why Zora, he's always got those magic circles written all over his body at any given time. So if somebody jumps out from behind a bush to try to stab him in the back of the neck or something, Zora, you bet, has like a magic ring right there. Boom, and it just like knocks the attacker back or something. That's something Zora planned. He's like Batman in a lot of regards. He's like, you give him prep time, he's set, okay? And the problem is, you could spend hours or days working on a magic circle, and it basically only has one use, and then after that, it's over. But it could be a really powerful effect, like the effect that Zora has that like knocks back the magic and doubles it. That's something that's really impressive, right? So Magna, unfortunately, cannot do something like that. That's not really in his wheelhouse. But him and Zora are basically spending the time skip sitting around and just planning, like, okay, there's got to be something I can do. Some way I can fight. Even if it takes a long time to draw out this magic sigil or whatever, I can do this, right? And so he eventually arrives at the conclusion that we saw in the chapter. And when we saw that at the end of the chapter, when we saw Magna showing up fighting against Dante, he's so arrogant, he doesn't even attack Magna. He's just like, you are so far beneath me, you are not even on my radar. He admits, he says, listen, there might be some characters that have weaker magic than me, and they can at least still entertain me, but you are like an ant. You are nothing to me, right? So go ahead, attack me all you want, and then just get the hell out of here. I don't even want to deal with you, all right? And so Zora and Magna, they walk in so epic, like, we'll bring them down, and Dante's like, what? And so he's like, go ahead and attack me, get it out of your system, and then just leave, just piss off. And so Magna's like, oh, that's perfect. That's actually ideal. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Zora and Magna planned that. Like, okay, in order for this magic spell to take effect, you have to hit him first. So that's going to be really hard because he's a freaking devil lord. How are you going to hit him with this power? It's like, oh no, it's fine. He's going to be so damn arrogant and egotistical, he's probably not even going to move. Because our magic is so puny, he's not even going to think it's going to be a threat, right? He knows we're not even going to be able to scratch him, so he's just probably not even going to do it. And so that's what happens. So Magna's like, oh, perfect, okay. Bam, hits him with a fireball, the chain comes out, connects the two, and divides their magic equally between both of them, all right? Now, when that first happened, I loved the idea, but we didn't know about the mechanism yet. That we found out in the last chapter, okay? Chapter 292, I believe. So at the end of 291, when we bust out the soul chain, like deathmatch or whatever, the secret flame magic, I'm like, okay, that's an awesome idea, but if that is something that, Magna could do or Magna could learn, how come not anybody else is doing that, right? How come we didn't see anybody else in the Clover Kingdom using magic in that way? So I was a little dubious on how it was going to be explained. This better not just be something like Magna read in a book. He's like, oh, I can do this spell, okay. You know, because even if it's like the premise of the spell is it divides the magic between both and like evens it out like on a scale, that's still an insanely powerful magic. Also the fact you're affecting a damn devil lord with this, right? Which by the way, I love that. Like all the stuff going on in Black Clover, a lot of people want me to talk about Noct and like his backstory, very tragic, or Asta's got the devil form, isn't that cool, Tekking? Talk about that. What about Yuno just doing generic badass Yuno stuff? You're basically becoming a wind god or whatever. It's like, yeah, all that's well and good, but freaking Magna Swing getting into a bare knuckle fisticuffs boxing match with a ding-dong devil lord, bam! That catches my attention. That's the moment where I'm like, all right, we'll talk about that. We'll get to the other stuff too, but that's the moment I want to talk about, all right? So in the last chapter, we found out the lore and everything, and it really makes a lot of sense how Tabata explained this, okay? So Magna literally took 6 months, the entire length of the time skip, 6 months, to write out this really complicated magical formula all over his body, a spell that only he could use, and it only has a one-and-done use. That is it. 6 months of planning and writing, and you know he probably spent a lot of hours every day writing this out, doing research, planning everything. Like, he put a lot of work into this. Let's say he dropped, like, you know, 8-10 hours a day working on this formula for 6 months. All right, it was probably something that complicated where he was like losing sleep and everything just working on this, okay? So that makes sense. When you put that much effort and that backstory into it, like, yeah, I have this ultimate spell that allows me, a peasant, to fight against a devil lord, but it took me like hundreds, thousands of hours to plan this in advance, and I still had to meet the condition of hitting him first. Can you imagine if that didn't work? Can you imagine if, like, Zora and Magna walked in and Dante immediately, like, instead of just viewing them as peasants and just, like, not even acknowledging them, what if he looked at it like, how dare you intrude on our battle, and just crushes them with the gravity magic right away? I mean, maybe Zora could have used something in order to prevent that, but it was still a bit of a gamble. If they would have done that, it would have been a problem. But with the conditions being met, with 6 months of planning and then him striking Dante first, it fulfilled it, and I love that. And that also explains why there was no one else that have really done anything like this. Look at the aristocracy and the prejudice that exists in the Clover Kingdom when it comes to the lower class. All right, people that have a higher level of magic instantly look down on the peasants. They don't care, and they practice their own magics. You know, I'm sure that they would see the peasants struggling with their runes or whatever. They'd be like, ah, silly peasants. Takes them hours at a time to make a single magic circle. I can do that in 2 seconds. Ha ha! They don't sit back and think like, wait a second here, that can actually be a strength. You know, so that probably a lot of mages in Clover and a lot of the aristocracy view that as like beneath them. You know, like oh, we don't need to bother with that type of magic, you know, taking days to scribble things together. We can do it at once. It's like, yeah, but, you know, if a peasant really puts their heart to it, you know, like Zora and Magna working together as a tag team, oh man, that's going to be great. Now, Zora did also state in the last chapter to Jack, like, you know, because Jack wants to help out too, but he's like, no, that'll mess up the spell. So this really is a spell that Magna probably put a lot of thought into. I'm not really sure of the whole detail of how it works, but the way that we understand how it operates is the chain is connected between Dante and Magna. If one of them pulls out the chain forcefully, it's literally connected to their soul, so if they do that, they will go insane. That's the way that Magna explained it. You will go stark raving like mad if you pull out the chain, okay? So that's an issue. Also, it's a one-on-one death match, literally. Like, it's the soul chain death match, okay? So no one else can get involved, or perhaps if somebody else gets involved, that'll disengage the spell or something like that. So Jack or Zora can't do anything. They gotta stay back. This is literally a spell that Magna thought of like, okay, mano a mano, one-on-one, me versus the freaking Devil King, the Devil Lord Dante. how can I fight against him fairly with that regard, okay? And it's just like, oh, okay, well, let's level out the freaking magic. Very similar to if you've read the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels in Bleach during one of the latter ones. We got Shuhei Hisagi's Bankai, and I made a video about that. Kind of a similar presence where a similar concept where it divides the magic or divides the Ryatsu between them. We also saw a really interesting representation of that in the last chapter where Tabata drew it, where Dante's power was, let's say, at 1,000 and Magna was at 2. And so with evened out, they both have 501 magics. They really haven't given a rank of magic, like a power level of magic. That was just a symbolism, like representation of like, okay, Magna's at level 2, Dante's at level 1,000 at full power, 100% devil form, okay, and everything like that. Which means that he's literally 500 times stronger than Magna normally, but now it's kind of evened out. So this is a huge benefit for Magna, and each of his fists can actually do damage to Dante, whereas it's a huge weakness for Dante. Because here's the thing, Dante can still use his regular magic. He can still use, like, the gravity magic, like heavy infighting and all that, except it's a lot weaker. Something else he did was he's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter how bad you bang me up, I can regenerate, so you're gonna lose. It's a battle of attrition. But Dante apparently is an idiot because he's like, yeah, sure, you can regenerate, but you have less magic to regenerate with. So that actually might be the thing that that draws him down at the end. Whereas Magna's not really using any of his, like, fireballs or anything. Magna's just doing the fisticuffs. He's just like, bang, bang, he's knocking him down. So if Dante tries to regenerate, that's wasting more magic. That's wasting magic for him to regenerate, which might prolong the fight. But meanwhile, Magna's like, you don't understand. This magic is not about regenerating or any other kind of trick. This magic is a full-on freaking, come to blows with your fists. And if you're not doing that, it's going to wear you down even more. So that might be a way that Magna can actually win. And I love the final scene of the chapter, the last chapter, where Magna just slams Dante to the ground and Zora's in the background and he's like, Magna, it doesn't matter if you're a peasant. It doesn't matter if you're weak. It doesn't matter if you're going up against the big boss of the entire arc. Win this. And I like that because the fact that Tabata put that in there makes me feel like, okay, we understand this is Magna. It's not Asta, it's not Yuno, it's not Noelle, it's not like some really prominent main character in the story that you could actually see taking on the main antagonist, right? Like, you'd assume that Asta's gonna be the one to ultimately take down Dante, and he might very well be. But just because it's Magna, don't throw it out yet. Don't just assume, oh, it's Magna. Well, yeah, he might be able to fight against Dante for a little while, but obviously we know Magna can't win. I'll be honest with you, Black Clover is one of those series, man, where from the beginning to where we are right now, they have changed a lot of things. They have flipped a lot of expectations. Like I've said before, when I first started reading Black Clover, like in the first arc, I felt like it was basically just taking Naruto and Fairy Tail and mixing it all together, and that was it. But over the years, man, it has gotten way better, and, like, the arcs have becoming a lot more complicated, characters are getting a lot more complex, backstories and everything really kind of twists your expectations in a lot of regards on where this is going to go. So, yeah, Now, if I had to say, because I have an idea on how this is going to end, and I'll get to that in a second, do I think Magna's going to straight up defeat Dante? Unfortunately, I do not. But I don't think it's going to be a thing where, Dante's going to break the rules or something like, oh, okay, yeah, you have this soul chain, well, I have some other kind of bullshit magic that allows me to negate this, and now I beat you down. I don't think it's going to go anywhere like that, but I think Magna is going to ultimately contribute to finishing off Dante once and for all, okay? And how do I think that? Well, this is how I think it's going to go, all right? So Dante and Magna are fighting, they're brawling. At first, Dante doesn't take him seriously. Even after they even out the magic, he's like, you filthy thief, you think you can beat me? So I don't think Dante's taking it like as a serious threat that can actually kill him yet. But if this fight continues, Dante's going to start realizing that. He's going to start realizing, oh shit, I don't have enough magic to regenerate. And also, his fists are really hurting when he's pummeling into me, right? And it might be a situation, I don't know if you're gonna versus like Magna's base stamina, like without getting Dante's devil involved or anything like that, or his magic involved, like where their stamina's at, just as their like physical human bodies, right? So it might very well be equal, or Dante might have a little bit on him there. But Magna's got the pluck and determination, right? I think it's gonna get to a point where Magna looks like it's looking like Magna's gonna win. Like Dante's reeling. Like Magna's like bang, bang, and then Zora's in the background like finish it! Bang! Uppercut! And there's blood spewing out of Dante's face, and there's blood everywhere. And Magna, he's all sweating, his heart's pounding. He's like, I'm gonna do it! I'm gonna do it! Holy crap, Asta! Master Yami, look at me! Bam! I'm gonna do it! And then you know what Dante's gonna do? He's gonna rip out the damn chain. Because they gave him an out. Because Magna did not say it was impossible to rip out the chain. He just said, if you do that, you're gonna go insane. But it's still possible. So I could see Dante getting to a point during the battle where he's all bloody and broken, and he's like, I can't, there's no way to lose against a pissant like this. Screw it. And he just rips out the chain, ends the spell. I'm assuming gets his magic back, if that's how it works, right? And then he does go insane with rage, but he goes insane with rage with his magic back. And so, you know, then that's when Magna's like, oh no. And then Magna might just pass out from the stress of it alone. And, yeah, we're gonna have a problem on our hands here. But if Asta shows up and fights against Dante or whatever, we can maybe have the fact that he's, like, insane. So, yeah, he might be really strong, and he might just be destroying things wantingly, but it's because he has that insanity now. He's not thinking straight, not thinking logically or anything. Asta might be able to, you know, beat him now, because it's like, oh, okay, there's no tricks here. It's just he's just raging like a madman. I can defeat him now, or something like that. I don't have to worry about tactics or anything. So, yeah, that's how I'm thinking it might go. I don't see Dante. Dante is the kind of character that would not bow down. If it's looking like a choice between losing to Magna or becoming just giving up your sanity and ripping your soul asunder, he would probably go with the latter option any day of the week. I feel that's how Dante would do it. But anyway, let me know how you feel about this fight, because I'm really pumped for it. I mean, yeah, I love the Noct fight. I loved him and all of his devil companions and all the different forms he went into. Of course, I love Asta's form. Of course, I love Yuno's form. But, you know, it's like those are the main characters. You expect that from the main cast. You expect to get Asta a really badass, you know, demon devil armor thing. You expect Yuno to become the wind deity or whatever like that. Like, you expect that. Do I expect Magna to show up with a really well thought out plan and strategy and then start fighting against the main boss out of nowhere? Hell no, man, that would be insane. This would be like in Bleach, where Aizen's up there, he's like, I am Aizen, I'm so smart, I have the Hogyoku. And then it would be, like, I don't know, Shuhei showing up. Like, Shuhei's like, I have this plan that I planned for so long, and then Shuhei actually starts fighting against Aizen on equal footing. You'd be sitting there eating the popcorn like, hell yeah, let's see where this goes. Go, Magna, I'm rooting for you, buddy. You know, like, so we'll see where it rolls. I feel like Magna's not going to 100% defeat him, but it's going to contribute in a big way, right? Okay, so anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking and Barry signing out. I'm off to the oak tree mothership of the squirrel people to delegate peace between our worlds. Will I succeed?